How's it, Grant here? Welcome back to another camera comparison video. And so while I know the Mi 11 Ultra is the best phone released by Xiaomi so far this year, I do think that the Mi 10 Ultra was a bit overlooked last year, and that's probably partially due to the fact that it was only released in China. But it is Xiaomi's 10th anniversary phone, and so they gave it a really nice camera system. It has a 48 megapixel custom wide-angle sensor designed by OmniVision for Xiaomi. It's got a large 20 megapixel ultra wide-angle sensor, just like a lot of the phones are coming out with this year. And it also has a periscope zoom lens, which is fairly similar to the one that's on the S21 Ultra. So although released about half a year before the S21 Ultra, I do think that the Mi 10 Ultra will compete very well here. And so go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos. You know I like to show you a bunch in both good and low light conditions to help you decide which of these two camera systems might be best for you. I'll come back at the end of the video and let me know what I thought about how each of these phones performed and which one I personally prefer. So go ahead and take a look at the photos and videos for yourself and let me know what you think. Everyone, so I'm in the park testing the video on the rear-facing cameras of the Xiaomi Mi 10 Ultra and the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. And this is the ultra-wide angle lens on each at 4K 30 frames per second. As you can see there, the sun's off to my left and it's pretty strong right now here in the afternoon, so you're going to see some of that glare and some lens flare here. But I'll pan around just so you can get a feel for how these ultra-wide angle cameras compare. Check out the color reproduction, the field of view. I think this is a good spot because it has a lot of greens, and of course as I pan up you can see that blue sky. The Mi 10 Ultra seems to be having a little bit of trouble here exposing for the sky, at least in the viewfinder with this afternoon sunlight. The Galaxy S21 Ultra is doing a lot better job here. So again, these are the ultra wide angle cameras each here at 4K 30 frames per second right now. And here are the main wide angle lenses here on each of the phones. I'll pan around with this main wide lens so you get a feel for the difference between the two. Same deal, color reproduction, everything else. And as I pan up, you can see how it re-exposes for that blue sky. And we'll go ahead and pan up here to the right where we'll test the zoom here on that cell tower. So we've got a 3x optical zoom here with the S21 Ultra, and I can move into 3x digitally here, I believe. Let's try this on the Mi 10 Ultra. And then we can go into 10x telephoto here on the S21, and we'll just move all the way in here 6x on the Mi 10 Ultra. And we go all the way in to a max 20x digital zoom there on the S21. So there's a max zoom here on each of the phones, and we'll go ahead and back this out on each. So let's get to 1x there on the Mi 10 Ultra and on the S21, and let's go ahead and test autofocus on the post first with the Mi 10 Ultra. There you go. Autofocus seems to be pretty quick here. Yep. So really nice and fast autofocus here on the Xiaomi with a really nice shallow depth of field or blurred out background, bokeh, whatever you want to call it. Good subject separation there on the Mi 10 Ultra. And we'll go one more time. So really nice autofocus there, and on the S21 Ultra. Should be really quick. I've tested this several times, and definitely even after this may update. Very nice and snappy autofocus here. Same really nice shallow depth of field, bokeh, nice subject separation there. So let's go ahead and test stabilization as you walk down the stairs, so you get a feel for how the stabilization looks here at 4K on both of these phones. As I walk through the path here, we'll pull up here at the end, and I'll just pan up into the trees and into the afternoon light so you can see how the camera adjusts for that particular harsh lighting. Hi everyone, so here's some front-facing video from the Mi 10 Ultra and the Galaxy S21 Ultra. This is at 1080p 30 frames per second, which is the max resolution and frame rate from the Mi 10 Ultra. The S21 Ultra can shoot up to 4K 60, but I want to keep everything even here. And I'm starting at my usual spot outdoors in some even lighting conditions, so you can see how the front-facing cameras do in some pretty ideal lighting. And as I pan around here, you start to see the lighting conditions change and what that does to the image quality here. And as I get this way, the sun is right there over my left shoulder. You can see how the exposure is struggling a little bit. And off the bat, the Mi 10 Ultra has a much tighter field of view than the S21 Ultra for that stabilization. And I'll start walking to test that stabilization here, so you can see what that looks like here on the front cameras of each of these phones. So what you think of the front-facing footage here in this outdoor setting from the Mi 10 Ultra and the S21 Ultra. Everyone, so here's some low light video from the rear facing cameras on the Mi 10 Ultra and the S21 Ultra. This is the ultra wide angle lens on each at 4K 30 frames per second. So I'll just pan around here to give you a feel for what these ultra wide angle lenses look like. You can see the mood in the upper right there by the building, as well as how these ultra wide angle cameras are handling that really bright light. The S21 Ultra seems to be flaring out both the moon and that bright light out more than the Mi 10 Ultra there. But we can go ahead and move into the main lenses now and take a look at what that looks like. So here are the main lenses on each of the two phones, and I'll pan around so you can see what that looks like here. They're going to be a little bit brighter here with the main lens and the ultra wide angle lens. That tends to be typical, so just pay attention to that. And I'll pan around to get a feel for, again, what these cameras look like here, and you can see what it's doing to that bright light. Both are flaring out that light quite a bit, which is pretty typical, but the S21, it just flares that out a lot more than other phones for some reason. And we'll pan over here to those trees that you can see there. Now with my own eyes, they blend in pretty well with the skyline. They're not that visible, but both of these phones are really trying to create some definition, trying to lift up the shadows and get you to actually see those trees a little bit more than what I'm seeing with my own naked eyes. So just something to note there. And we'll go ahead and pan around this way so that we can start testing stabilization and low light, as well as seeing how these cameras handle that well-lit area and what they look like here as we move into a much darker area. As we move over this way and we'll around the corner, and you'll see what that looks like. In the viewfinder already, the S21 Ultra is looking brighter than the Mi 10 Ultra, and there's considerably more noise as well because of that on the S21. And so as we round the corner here, it's much darker in this area, and you can really see the S21 Ultra really brightening that up, and considerable amount of noise because of that. And we'll pan up into the night sky, which is decently dark. We do have some light pollution here, but you can see all the noise that the S21 is creating, trying to brighten that up a bit, much more than the Mi 10 Ultra. I'll pan over here to the left where there's a little bit more light, so there's a blend of some darkness and a little bit more light. But both of them are kind of brightening it up, but of course S21 really trying to brighten that up a lot more. So there's what the cameras look like here in low light in 4K. Hey everyone, and just for reference, I have both of these in Pro mode for video, and this is kind of closer, at least what I'm seeing through the viewfinder. I think I've got it dialed into what I'm actually seeing with my own naked eyes here. So you can see everything is much more toned down, much darker. Again, you can see those trees, you can barely make them out against the skyline. That's pretty much what I'm seeing with my own eyes. As I pan over here to the right, you'll see that the light isn't being flared out as much anymore by the S21 Ultra or the Mi 11 or the Mi 10 Ultra, I mean. But the Mi 10 Ultra is kind of flaring out just a bit more than the Samsung is now. And again, I'll just pan around to get a feel for what this looks like here. And again, I've got this in manual mode dialed into what I think is what I'm seeing with more naturally with my own eyes, to give you a reference point of how much the auto mode tries to really brighten up the scene quite a bit. So as I walk this way, you'll see it getting considerably darker, and that's pretty much how dark it is right now with the minimal light that's around me. And I'm walking through the sprinklers here for you guys, so I'm going for a little bit of a nighttime walk, getting a little bit wet, but you know, we do it for YouTube. And I'll keep walking here, and as you can see out here, it's much darker this time around. And that's pretty much how dark it is, at least what I'm seeing with my own eyes as well. And if I pan out into the night sky, you can see this is actually a little bit darker maybe than what I'm seeing. We got a little bit of light pollution. But I'll go ahead and pan here where there's a little bit more light down this alleyway. And that's pretty close to accurate as well. So I just want to give you a reference for how dark it really is out here and what that lighted area kind of looked like here by using Pro mode. So you can reference that against what you just saw with the auto mode and how much both these cameras really try to brighten up the scene. So here's some low light video from the front facing cameras of the Mi 10 Ultra and the S21 Ultra. Obviously I'm starting out in a fairly well lit area. I just want to show you what these cameras can do in some optimal lighting conditions here. And off the bat, you'll also notice that the Mi 10 Ultra has a much more narrow field of view so it's going to be much more cropped in, and you're going to fit less in the frame than the S21 Ultra. And I'll just pan around here so you can see the lights on the left and to the right of me, as well as behind me right there with the really bright lights to see how these cameras pick them up and how they're performing. And I'll just start walking to test the stabilization as well, so you can see the difference between that on these two phones. As well as we'll be going over to a much darker area so you can test out different lighting conditions here and how it handles the good light that you just saw versus a much more difficult lighting situation that we're approaching here. Also, I have a fountain to the right of me so we can test out the microphones and how they're canceling out that noise and focusing more on my voice or not. And we'll pan around this way, and you can see some of the really bright lights behind me and how these cameras are handling it. Looks like the S21 Ultra is kind of blurring them out a little bit more than the Mi 10 Ultra. But of course, here's a little bit darker area, so you can kind of see what that looks like here on each of the two phones. In the viewfinder, it looks like the S21 Ultra is a little bit brighter here in this situation. But let me know what you thought of all the photos and videos here between these two phones and which one you personally preferred. I think if you're looking for color accuracy and more true to life colors, you're going to like the Mi 10 Ultra. But pretty much as expected, the S21 Ultra has the better overall zoom performance, being the newer phone, and its periscope zoom lenses they're just a little bit better in the overall zoom range than the Mi 10 Ultra. Also, I think as a just overall camera package, putting color accuracy aside, I do think that the S21 Ultra and Samsung's image processing is actually really good. It might be the best overall camera system to date this year. I think they just produce really good results. The image processing looks really good, especially on the front-facing cameras as well. I think probably the best front-facing cameras on a phone right now. They were always pretty good when they launched, and I think they've even gotten possibly even better. The processing and how they do it looks really good. It balances out the background very well as well. And I think overall video performance, the S21 Ultra also is probably going to win there. I don't think the Mi 10 Ultra, it's okay video quality, but nowhere near, I think, the quality that you're seeing from the S21 Ultra. But that's just my quick assessment and what I think and personally what I prefer. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we can continue the discussion down there. Any other questions or comments that I can answer, leave them as a comment and I'll try to get to what I can. And as always, thanks for watching.